that you're all happy, healthy, prosperous, and above all, that you're doing good things, right? That is more important. Obviously, I hope that you're all enjoying a life of liberty and the pursuit of happiness and all that. But again, mostly, and above all, you're doing good things. If you're not, well, I hope you get to the place and state where you are doing that, and where you're all that sooner rather than later. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about today is a bit about the state of Bitcoin. The market price, as like you know, price action of Bitcoin is not so interesting. I mean, it's interesting if you're trading, but in the big picture, that is not the most interesting thing about it, right? In the big picture, we are still very early, and we are also not very early. What do I mean by that? Well, there are still 8 billion people who never touch this stuff. There's only 8.2 billion people on the planet. It means roughly about 200 million people have ever interacted with this particular ecosystem that we call the Bitcoin. Right? It's not a lot of people. In fact, it's so few people, right? We haven't even reached 10% yet, right? We're at about 2.5% of people. And just because they've interacted with it, just because they put some on a wallet, doesn't mean they've adopted it, doesn't mean they use it, doesn't mean anything. Yeah, maybe they put $10 on a wallet, $50 on a wallet, $100 on a wallet. The vast overwhelming majority of people on planet Earth have not touched this stuff, and it is perceived incredibly negatively by the powers that be that basically missed the boat to get in much, much cheaper, who are butthurt as all hell, and the media outlets that they control or influence, who therefore report on it mostly negatively. When they report on it well is when the price is so high, they FOMO everybody into buying it, just so the ones that do have some can dump all over the market and redistribute it at lower prices to their smart friends, relatively smart friends, who have money and who aren't afraid to buy at 95 or 90 or whatever price it can go back down to again. The average retail trader is basically afraid when the market dumps. They have what are known in the colloquial expression of the market as paper hands, and they will dump their Bitcoins right back onto the market when they see price dumping, because they don't understand returns, they don't understand volatility, they don't understand entropy, they don't understand probabilities and statistics, right? So they just see price go down, me sell, but they sell too late when the price is already dumped, which is when they should be buying. And instead they sell to either whales who are lying in wait, or the friends of whales who are also on the quote-unquote smart money track, but who missed their in with Bitcoin earlier, and who are looking for a discount to get it now. And that's who scoops it up from those quote-unquote paper hands in retail and buys it from them. Am I a farmer? I love that question. Well, I've done farming in my life, and no small amount of it. But probably a real farmer would say, yeah, no, I'm not a farmer. And any amount of farming that I have done is a minuscule amount in their opinion. And they're probably right. In fact, I'm sure they are. But to me, it felt like no small amount. So am I a farmer? Well, I guess it depends on who you're talking to. Do I live near farms? Yeah, actually, I'm surrounded by farms where I live. In fact, I live in the middle of farms. So, about to come up on one right now. About 30 seconds from where I am is a big farm field. It's like maybe 100 feet in front of me. So yeah. So Bitcoin, right? No Bitcoin for you if you're paper hands, right? The sharks, the whales, the big institutions that have the vast, overwhelming majority of all the mined Bitcoin already. And by the way, there's not that much left to mine, only around 5.5% or so. And whatever is left to mine, if you think it's retail that is going to get most of it, you're kidding yourself, right? Retail has roughly, really 1% of Bitcoin. You want to be generous, you could say they have 3%, but they don't. And by the way, there's a farm. Right there. That is a farm. Maybe it's prettier to look at than me, I don't know. But yeah, I'm surrounded by farmland, my friends. Up here in northern Israel, just so you know. Where fortunately, for the last few weeks now, we've had relative peace and quiet. I can say that because of this kind of ceasefire agreement that was put in place recently between Israel and Hezbollah, and so hopefully that fighting is done. I prefer peace to war, and with the mindset that it's better to have peace than war. Every day we have peace is another day that we don't have war. And war sucks and all that stuff. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but I will say the Bitcoin that you have, if you have any, is frankly more precious than a lot of people can realize, than a lot of people do realize, not can, but do realize, right? It's not just an energy play. By the way, Michael Saylor is not the first person to say it was an energy play. Many of us were saying it's an energy play many years ago. I don't know how long you've all been into Bitcoin. I've been in it from the very beginning. And it has always been much more than an energy play. Right? The ability to send values across great distances is more than just energy. Values matter more than energy. Energy does matter. It is incredibly important. Without energy, you're not doing anything, right? But Bitcoin doesn't create energy. Bitcoin uses energy. Bitcoin is a store of information and values, and Bitcoin consumes energy. And arguably, you could say, well, if it consumes energy, then it powers or gives a reason for clean energy producers to exist. Yes, it does. And that's why a lot of miners set up clean energy facilities where they produce clean energy in order to mine their Bitcoin. And then they resell their unused energy to the grid. And a lot of them actually pay for a significant chunk of their costs, their overhead and all that stuff, with their clean energy, because they'd rather do that than pay for it with any Bitcoin that they mine. And if you think about mining Bitcoin, right, it's not like mining Bitcoin is free like it was back in 2009, okay? Back then, yeah, it was fun. We'd plug in our laptops, let the software run, and if we mined the block, we got 50 Bitcoin that were worth nothing at the time. We were spending more on the electricity than the value of the coin. This was even before there were any exchanges, right? And we would have to, like, if we wanted to get any use out of them, basically, from the beginning, what was I doing with them? I was using them to barter with content writers, people writing articles for me for my web publishing business or whatever, or people writing marketing messaging or whatever it was. Or I'd trade for like a little computer fan or some LED lights or small computer parts, whatever it was. I trade them some Bitcoin for it, and that was it. And that was way before Pizza Day and all that stuff. We were just, we were trading things of almost no value. It had value, but very, very little. And so you weren't sending 10,000 Bitcoins for a computer fan. You're sending, whatever the number was that the person would agree on. Because, in many cases, for them to set up a wallet and all that was almost space language. But the ones who got it, they understood. And they were smart, and they did what they did. It was also a very good way of transferring information, especially back then, from, let's say, places where people are not so free to talk. For example, in Syria, or other countries that I shall not name, where people who were otherwise not free to talk and certainly could not have done the work that they did for quote-unquote free, and could not have received that money with a fiat wire transfer or any fiat payment, even if they were in a country that had access to said services, because they would leave a trace that their government officials would have seen very easily. Whereas Bitcoin, when set up correctly, was beyond their reach at the time. And so it was a very great way, very effective way of protecting people's anonymity or privacy or identity or whatever, to make sure that we were not putting people in danger in order to get content, and that we were still remunerating them in a way that was considered fair between the parties. And we're talking very, very early adopters here, right? Those people who were accepting the Bitcoin from me, they were incredibly foresighted adopters. And if they have any of their Bitcoins left, they're doing very well financially, right? But as with most things, when the thing has very little value, perceived value at the time, so, not a lot of people have a very long-term vision of it, and they're not likely to hold on to it for decades. Some will, but most won't. Keep in mind, there were already, within the first few years, there were millions of people sending this stuff back and forth, buying it, using it. Not many millions, but millions. How many of those millions of people still have the vast majority of their Bitcoins? The answer is none of them, right? It's not actually zero, but it's so close to zero that it is statistically insignificant. We're talking in the thousands out of millions, right? So like 0.1% of them, maybe 0.2%, have any portion, like significant portion of the Bitcoins they had back then. The other 99.8 or 0.9% sold or lost their Bitcoins. I lost Bitcoins, tons of them, because my servers were attacked physically, like by people who broke into the facility and literally destroyed the computer. So thousands of them are, inaccessible, gone forever. I don't know how many thousands, it doesn't even matter. It's been so long. Back then, there were no hardware wallets, right? And when you lost a computer with your Bitcoins on them and you didn't back it up somehow, or the backup got lost, and that's it. So, that happens. And you can't, you got to think about it this way, okay? If you think to yourself, oh no, I've lost hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, you're never going to sleep again comfortably, probably. But if you just think of, I lost, a computer that had on it some software that at the time was worth about, nothing. What was 2, 3, 4, 5,000 Bitcoin worth in 2009? It was worth practically nothing. If you're lucky, a couple $100. So, yeah, sure. Now it's worth hundreds of millions, sure. But don't think for a second that I wouldn't have used those coins for other things during the meantime. I'm just saying, even people who get it from the beginning, even people who understand the tech from the beginning understand that there are more practical things to do in life sometimes. Not everybody's going to hold on to an asset like that for 16 years from the very beginning because of reasons. So don't beat yourself up if you lost a bunch. Don't beat yourself up if you missed out on a better price. Don't listen to that nonsense about people only get the Bitcoin at the price they deserve. It's just such an unbelievably offensive statement. What about people who literally cannot buy any because of regulations where they live, that they happen to be born in the place where they are, that they have no control over that and no ability to not be impacted by that control? It's just such an unbelievably offensive statement. What about people who had outside forces affect them that do not allow them to take advantage of the opportunity? Oh, so they only deserve to buy it when they finally get the access? Honestly, to people like that, and yes, I'm talking about Michael Saylor, just so we're clear, okay? I am not a fan of billionaires who are cheerleading a thing that they already own a huge chunk of, and they tell everybody else to buy it, but all they're really doing is saying, hey, buy the thing I already own more than you can ever possibly own. I'm not a fan of that. That's why I don't tell people buy the thing that I already own more than you could possibly ever own. Because it's disgusting. It's a disgusting way to talk to people. Okay? And when people cheer on a guy like Michael Saylor, whenever he announces some big buy, I'm sorry, but unless you're a whale like him and you don't give a damn about the little guy, you have no ethics at all, you just want to see you and your rich friends get wealthier and screw everybody else, And then you have no business cheering that on. I don't cheer it on. I think it's disgusting. I honestly think when people like Michael Saylor cheer on themselves for buying a bunch of Bitcoin at, frankly, prices most people will never be able to afford a single one, they'll frankly never be able to afford 0.1, and they'll frankly never buy 0.05. Statistically, it's not possible for the majority of people to do that. We all know that. If you get 0.002 Bitcoin, you have as much or more as the average person can ever have. And when you consider that 99% of it really is already owned by whales, I mean, in terms of the amount that's actually mined versus the total versus the everything, right? Sure, say 95% of it's owned by whales. Go ahead. Do you really think that retail is going to own the other 5% and is going to make significant claws back and is going to take back the majority of it from the whales? Or do you think that the whales have figured out, hey, we better own this thing before whale controls it and then we lose our grip on power? Because that's what they're doing. They're not going to, if you think they're going to let retail get a fair share at the future, I got news for you. That's not how the wealthy work. They're not in it to be your friend. They're not in it to let you get access to the big club that George Carlin famously called out and said, it's a big club. You ain't in it. You ain't in it. You ain't in it. I ain't in it. You ain't in it. We ain't in it. We ain't in it. You. It's big in the sense of you got to have big numbers, but it's small in the sense of who is allowed inside. You got to have big, big numbers, and morals keep you out. Sell it. Who you're selling it to? It's 2009 anymore. You can't go out and buy 1 million Bitcoin for practically nothing relative to today. Think about it. If you'd spent $10,000 buying Bitcoin in 2009, 10, you would own immeasurable amounts of this stuff. You'd make Michael Saylor look like a chump change if you bought it and held it till now. Because you could get many Bitcoin for $1 back then. And if you can buy that much Bitcoin in 2009 and hold on to it and have the vision to hold on to it till 2024, well, not only do you have a lot of vision, you've earned yourself astronomical returns. But if you did that, would you be the kind of schmuck that's telling everyone else, you gotta buy Bitcoin, you gotta buy Bitcoin? Or would you be the kind of person that says, listen, it's a worthwhile investment that still has very potentially significant returns, but it's much more than just money. And it's much more than just an energy play, although that is a significant and important part of it. And it is controlled by the wealthy who don't want you to have any. So no matter what you buy of it, you're basically never going to sell it. You're buying it for your heirs to potentially have some financial security. Right? if you're buying it to hold it for life and longer. You're basically not buying it for yourself. If you're buying it for yourself, that means you intend to sell it at some point and profit from it at some point. Because if you're just buying it to have it and never do anything with it, what's the point? At least if you give it to your heirs, great. Or if you use it to improve your own life, great. But unfortunately, most people miss that opportunity, and it's not always their fault. That's the thing. You know, somebody wrote here, do you think that society becomes even more selfish in the future? Yes, of course. Absolutely. These devices that we hold in our hand make us more selfish in the present. These smartphones, they make us more selfish in the present. What on earth makes anybody think we are going to be less selfish in the future? No, we're definitely going to be more selfish and worse people to each other in the future. We're losing our societal skills, our intersocietal skills, our interpersonal skills, our social skills, thanks to social media, which is really anti-social media. Social media is the most anti-social invention maybe ever. And I'm sorry, I contributed to that. But there you go. I built social networks before Facebook, before MySpace, before Friendster. Right around the time DeviantArt was building theirs, I was building a social network. Did very well. Yay. I wish we hadn't done it. People say, do you have any regrets in life? Yeah. Creating social media. One of the earliest ones. I wish we hadn't. But if we hadn't, the others would have too. They would have done it. So it's not like my invention was the one that took off anyway. It's not like the one that I made was the one that everybody chose. Other ones were better, apparently, because they're the ones people chose. They wanted to be more antisocial. We wanted people to be more social. They didn't want that. People want to be antisocial with the smart technology. So yeah, I have many regrets in life. Who doesn't? If you say, no, I don't have any regrets in life. Okay, either you have a blessed life and good for you, or you're not being honest. If you've never regretted anything in life, I don't believe you. Okay? You may have learned a lesson from a thing that you regretted and then said, oh, wow, now I don't regret that because I learned a lesson from it and turned a negative into a positive. Yeah, but you still regret that thing in the first place. You know? Do I regret losing thousands and thousands of Bitcoin? I'd be a liar if I said I didn't regret it. But do I lose sleep over it? No, because I would never sleep if I thought about how many dollars worth in today's value Bitcoin I lost. It'd be stupid to think like that. I could not sleep. I could not do anything. What a waste that would be. So yes, society becomes increasingly selfish. Hopefully at some point we will reach a point where we will be less selfish. But you know what the problem is? As much as I love AI and LLMs, and they are fantastic in many ways, they are also terrible. Relax, enjoy life. Bro, I do relax and I do enjoy life. I'm trying to convey a message here for people to not get so wound up in exactly what you're saying, to relax and enjoy life. It's important to relax. It's important to enjoy life. It's also important to be honest with yourself. And it's important not to cheer on the millionaires and billionaires who already own most of the Bitcoin, pretty much all of it. And they don't want you to own any. They very specifically don't want you to own any. They own 99% of the max cap supply. You think they're going to just give that away? They're not. I mean, retail is fighting over 1%. That's it. How can we change that? Okay, how can we change that is very simple. First of all, retail investors should be learning about how to invest properly. Financial education is a big thing, right? Average people should be getting in on this space before whales continue to buy up the rest of it. When there are big dips, retail investors should buy $10 here, $50 there, 100, whatever they can afford without losing sleep over it. And then just hold it. Make it a people's coin again. That's why I like Litecoin, by the way. Litecoin is the exact same code as Bitcoin, exact same qualities as Bitcoin, exact same characteristic traits as Bitcoin, everything. The only difference is there's 4 times as many Litecoin as there are Bitcoin. That's the only real difference. So the block rewards are 4 times as much. That's it. You can get 1,000 of them for a Bitcoin right now. About plus minus 1,000 Litecoin per Bitcoin. That is an insane value. And the majority of it is still held by retail. That is shifting quickly as more and more whales buy Litecoin. Same thing with Cardano. The vast overwhelming majority of Cardano is still held by retail. But that is also shifting quickly as more and more whales and institutions buy Cardano. The real decentralized cryptocurrencies, and there are a bunch of them, that are still in the hands of retail, those are the assets that retail should be looking at to buy little bits. I'm not telling anybody go buy tons of this stuff. And in fact, I'm not even telling anybody to go buy it at all. But if people want to have a share of what is inevitably going to be the future of finance, getting tiny little increments of it is infinitely better if you're getting those tiny increments now than getting them in 5, 10, 20 years. Which is unfair to people born today who will only know about it 10, 15 years from now and buy it 20 years from now. It's not fair to them, but that's life. So what will happen? New things will keep being invented. You know why? Necessity is the mother of invention. So I love Bitcoin, I love Litecoin, I love crypto, but they are not the first, they're not the last, they're not the everything of financial and value asset transfers. They just happen to be the state of the art right now. Anyway, on that note, hang on here. But our system blocks average people to get financial knowledge easily right from. You're correct, Elongo. But you know what? In some places, like here where I am in Israel, we actually have financial education in elementary school. Kids here learn financial education from like the 3rd grade, 4th grade. I'm not even kidding you. You have financial education. It's even called financial education on their curriculum. And they learn financial education from the 4th grade. So by the time they're done with elementary school, they have more understanding of financial education than most high school graduates in America or Western Europe. Right? And then there are other places in the world where they do this too. It is increasingly an important class for anybody's education. And I 100% agree that the average person has to have a better financial education. Absolutely. And not just a financial education, a financial setup. And there are ways to do that. But that's for another topic, for another video. Anyway, folks, that's it. I'm going to get going. I wish you all a wonderful day. And thank you for joining me. If you like this at all, tell the algo gods, do the social. Do the anti-social social thing. Like and follow and subscribe or whatever. And share it. But more than anything, just thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. I hope you got something out of this. And if you want me to do more of this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments and I will make more of these kind of videos, okay? Where I will talk more about the bigger picture rather than just the trading or marketing stuff or current events. All right, guys, that's it. Peace. Take care.